Welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the breakout sessions before lunch and that you've had some chances to chat with people and make some connections here. I've been enjoying our discussion so far. We are now come to our second keynote presentation of the conference and of the day. I am joined by old friend John DiBartolo here, who's also an old friend of Signum and Mythmoot. In fact, he's sporting his T-shirt from Mythmoot IV there, right? That's right. That was the first of our sort of second generation of Mythmoots. So that was that's great to have John back with us again. So you know, a lot of you may remember John's stuff. The stuff that John works on. John's one of the Tolkien quotes that I know has really informed a lot of John's work is that famous line from that very famous letter, the letter to Milton Waldman, letter 131 from the published collection, in which Tolkien, talking about sort of the context of his whole work, says that the cycles should be linked to a majestic whole and yet leave scope for other minds and hands wielding paint and music and drama. And John DiBartolo has taken up Tolkien's invitation here with eagerness and with generosity, not only pursuing his own creative expressions of Tolkien's ideas as poet and musician, but encouraging creative and appreciative communities of engagement around him as well. I think this is actually really well kind of encapsulated by the fact that the Lonely Mountain Band is two of John's projects. Right? On the one hand, it is the name of his band, right? He actually, the musical group with which he had, his musical project. He's released several albums, which I know many of you have heard, adapting Tolkien's ideas and songs. But of course, the Lonely Mountain Band is also the name of one of the oldest and largest kinships in the Lord of the Rings Online video game, and has been a sort of central community for Tolkien lovers within the Lotro community since way back in the first days of Lotro as a platform. And that those two things, both the creative expression, the creative engagement with Tolkien's world, and the community building have both been things that have really marked John's bardic career so far. So without further ado, I will hand things over to John.
Well said, Corey. Thank you so much. And it's great to be here. Thank you, everyone. I think this is possibly my fourth Mythmoot that I've had the privilege to speak at. So it's hard to believe we're at 7. I was just telling Corey earlier. So let me get right down to the presentation. My presentation is called A Song of Challenge, Prophecy in Songs in Middle-earth. And let me actually share my screen. Let's see. Corey, I don't see a screen share button here. Oh, wait a second. There we go. Okay. Hopefully everyone can see that. And so let me begin with a quote. In that hour, Luthien came, and standing upon the bridge that led to Sauron's Isle, she sang a song that no walls of stone could hinder. Beren heard, and he thought that he dreamed, for the stars shone above him, and in the trees nightingales were singing. And in answer, he sang a song of challenge that he had made in praise of the 7 stars, the sickle of the Valar that Varda hung above the north as a sign for the fall of Morgoth. Then all strength left him, and he fell down into darkness. That is from the Silmarillion, page 205. So the invitation to participate in Mythmoot VII, Defining and Defying Darkness, came to me while I was in the process of actually writing and recording the new and what will be the 4th Lonely Mountain Band album. So then I had hoped to be able to release the new album in celebratory fashion at the Mythmoot convention in June, under the stars, sharing my Tolkien-inspired music with old friends and new. But alas, a new darkness enveloped all of our plans. My recording sessions were greatly delayed, and Mythmoot was rescheduled and finally moved to the virtual realm we are all in now. This new darkness we are all now faced with, to varying degrees, has obviously made the theme of this year's Mythmoot even more poignant. This growing shadow in the land and its various new manifestations throughout society undoubtedly also sparks in us a flame of defiance, seeking inspiring ways to find the light in our dark places when all other lights go out. And so Mythmoot, thankfully, carries on despite the shadow looming over our world now. And again, when considering the theme of the conference and also gradually seeing a growing theme presenting itself within the writing of this new album, this new Lonely Mountain Band album, a specific phrase from a dark scene in Tolkien's writings repeatedly came to light in my mind. It was this phrase, a song of challenge. In my opening quote, I referenced the scene from the Silmarillion where Beren and Luthien are faced with a hopelessly dark and deadly situation on the Dark Lord's island. It's so striking and so powerful to me that in some of the darkest moments of Tolkien's legendarium, dark moments defined by total despair of the hero and the presence of the physical manifestation of seemingly pure evil, that the hero resorts to song. And we see this theme run throughout Tolkien's legendarium over and over. When the darkness is fully realized by the despair of the hero, Tolkien shows us that a powerful act of defiance is singing or simply reciting the words of a song. And as we see from the quoted text, that song often contains hope through a prophecy. There's the quoted text. As the songs of the new album began to materialize in theme and lyrics, I kept finding myself back at this idea of prophetic songs and their power to defy the darkness. And so the subject of my talk became clear in its relevance to our Mythmoot theme of defying and defining darkness, more so in the challenge and the defiance of darkness. So during this talk, I hope to be able to navigate a brief exploration of this theme by looking at some of Tolkien's texts that demonstrate this concept, and also by showing how those scenes in the stories have inspired the songs of my upcoming album. The imaginary secondary world inspiring primary world songs. I am also excited and honored to be able to share some of the new music that I've created. And this is for the first time outside of my studio. Happy to be able to debut that here with you at Mythmoot, with the Mythmoot audience, and explore some of my lyrics in relation to the themes we are dealing with. So when I'm writing a new Tolkien-inspired song, which is mostly what Lonely Mountain Band creates, I often go back to the texts and search for inspiration. It could be something a character says, or a bit of fragmentary lore that inspires a lyric or a new song, sometimes just instrumentals as well. But I remember vividly, just a few months ago, rereading the scene where Beren sings this song of challenge. I happened to be in this part of the story, again, because I was researching the Sickle of the Valar for another song. And then I remember being suddenly transfixed with this phrase. It was as if I had never noticed it before, a song of challenge. What's even more inspiring is this song of challenge is not what the phrase might imply to modern readers, like, hey, Sauron, I challenge you to a battle, or some sort of bragging display of physical or intellectual might, like we might hear from so many contenders, both ancient and modern. No, the text explains that this song of challenge is in fact a song of praise. And that's startling. A song praising this sickle of the Valar, the seven-starred constellation that the Valar named Varda had placed in the sky as a prophetic sign of the future defeat of Morgoth. So I found this concept to be so inspiring, and this moment in the text, which we can see, as I said earlier, this kind of moment of resorting to song in moments of despair, we see this running throughout the legendarium. And so it was so inspiring to me that it inspired this new song that I'm going to play for you later, called The Lords of the West. But this concept that Tolkien embedded in his mythology of prophecy and the stars that serve as signs and reminders of these prophecies, and also the point that there would be those that call upon Varda and her signs of prophecy, that concept is set forth early in the Silmarillion. And I have a quote here which details that. But at the bidding of Manwë, Mando spoke, and he said, "In this age, the children of Iluvatar shall come indeed, but they come not yet. Moreover, it is the doom that the firstborn shall come in darkness, and shall look first upon the stars. Great light shall be for their waning. To Varda ever they shall call at need." Then Varda went forth from the council, and she looked out from the height of Tanaquetil, and beheld the darkness of Middle-earth beneath the innumerable stars, faint and far. Then she began a great labor, greatest of all the works of the Valar since their coming into Arda. She took the silver dews from the vats of Telperion, and therewith she made new stars, and brighter against the coming of the firstborn. Wherefore, he whose name out of the deeps of time and labors of Ea was Tintele, the kindler, was called after by the elves Elentari, queen of stars, Carnil and Luinil, Nanar and Lumbar, Alcarinque and Elamire. She wrought in that time, and many other of the ancient stars she gathered together and set as signs in the heavens of Arda. Wilwarin, Telemendil, Saranume, and Anarima, and Menelmakar with his shining belt, the swordsman in the sky, that forebodes the last battle that shall be at the end of days. And high in the north, as a challenge to Melkor, she set the crown of 7 mighty stars to swing, the Valacerca, the sickle of the Valar, and sign of doom. It is told that even as Varda enters her labors, and they were long, when first Menelmakar strode up the sky, and the blue fire of Helluin flickered in the mists above the borders of the world, in that hour the children of the earth awoke, the firstborn of Iluvatar, by the starlit mere of Cuvienen, water of awakening. They rose from the sleep of Iluvatar, and while they dwelt yet silent by Cuvienen, their eyes beheld, first of all things, the stars of heaven. Therefore, they have ever loved the starlight and have revered Varda Elentari above all the Valar. And so we see the great emphasis placed upon the stars, great emphasis, but more so upon the prophecy that they are signs of, critical information that the Valar are allowed to share with the various children of Iluvatar, information received possibly and probably from their witness of the great music outside the walls of time. So how interesting it is that this fragmentary but critical information now contained in prophecy and signified by the stars, as we just saw in that quote, that information was received by the Valar through the great music of creation, and then praised through music by mortal Beren and others. If we look at the text again, and in answer, he sang a song of challenge that he had made in praise of the 7 stars, the sickle of the Valar, that Varda hung above the north as a sign for the fall of Morgoth. Then all strength left him, and he fell into darkness. And as we have seen, this sign becomes a prophecy in and of itself. The stars contain information about these prophecies. These are seemingly moments of eucatastrophe in miniature, praising the ultimate eucatastrophe prophesied to happen in the future. When all seems darkest, it is the song and the prophecy contained within that song that provides the needed hope, even as Beren falls down into darkness. Given the integral place this concept of song, star, and prophecy is given within the mythology, I can't help but think of the similarities in the biblical accounts, which I would like to explore a little here. In Job 38, we see God rhetorically asking Job if he was there during creation. It's kind of a comical exchange between God and Job. When the angels were singing that great music. And Job 38 says, Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? To what were its foundations fastened? Or who laid its cornerstone? And this is the key phrase here, when the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy. It's interesting to note that these verses, we see the stars and angels mentioned together singing. Of course, the association between stars and angels in the biblical record is well known. Many times angels are called stars and stars angels. As a side thought, it would have been amazing to see Tolkien's English editing of the Book of Job come to light from the Jerusalem Bible of 1966, but apparently that has never been either completed and or revealed to us. So then in the biblical creation story, we also see that stars have indeed been placed in the heavens as a sign of set times in the Bible as well. And so we have a quote from Genesis 1:14 through 17. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of heaven to give light upon the earth." And it was so. He made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. We see that the stars in Genesis have been set in the heavens to give light, not just physical light, but knowledge amidst the darkness upon earth. And as signs, literally in the text, it says set times. Anyone familiar with the biblical records knows that this theme runs right through the entire Bible, culminating in the famous story about those wizards from the east, commonly referred to as magi, seeing a star of a prophesied coming king. So a slightly deeper historical dive into who these magi were shows that they were a class of wise men obsessed with the stars, obsessed with dreams and prophecy. Of course, the theme of prophecy, stars and songs, continues right through the book of Revelation, especially in chapter 12. But again, I cannot help but think that Tolkien, as a Christian, was drawing upon this biblical inspiration of the connection between stars, prophecy, and their relation to songs or even psalms as a method of transmission. In Psalm 19, the famous minstrel king, David, goes on to explain that there is no place where the sound or voice of these stars is not heard, as well as the knowledge that they transmit. And this is Psalm 19, verses 1 through 4. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night showeth knowledge. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. Their line is gone through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. It becomes evident that the songwriter David is revealing to the listener or to the reader and confirming those verses from Genesis 1, that there is a message signified in the stars available to any who might want to investigate. Furthermore, the connection between these songwriters, David being the most famous, or minstrels in the Bible, and prophecy is shown in one scene from 2 Kings 3:15. There's also another quote from Samuel, which we'll look at. But in this quote from 2 Kings, the prophet Elisha is sent to deliver a prophecy to a troubled King Jehoshaphat. But before he can deliver the information, Elisha curiously states, "But now bring me a minstrel." And it came to pass when the minstrel played that the hand of the Lord was upon him. And so Elisha the prophet does not deliver the prophecy to the king until the minstrel begins playing music. This is an amazing example of the connection between music and prophecy in the biblical record. There are other examples as well, such as 1 Samuel 10:5 through 6. And the quote is up on the screen. "After that, you shall come to the hill of God where the Philistine garrison is. And it will happen when you have come there to the city that you will meet a group of prophets coming down from the high place with a stringed instrument, a tambourine, a flute, and a harp before them. And they will be prophesying. And the Spirit of the Lord will come upon thee, and thou shalt prophesy with them, and shalt be turned into another man. Further on in the New Testament, we again see the light of prophecy and a connection to the stars as a light in defiance of darkness. Part of this verse that we're going to look at even closely resembles something Galadriel said to Frodo concerning the star of Erendil. And this is 2 Peter 2:19. And so we have the prophetic word confirmed, which you do well to heed as a light that shines in a dark place until the day dawns and the morning star rises in your hearts. It's really compelling to consider that the light Galadriel gave to Frodo was the star of Erendil. And it was to be for Frodo a light in dark places. And this star, being Arundel's ship Vingalot, was set by the Valar as a sign in the sky. Another quote from the Silmarillion concerning this sign in the sky. Now, when first Vingalot was set to sail in the seas of heaven, it rose unlooked for. This was an unexpected sign that had been placed there, glittering and bright. And the people of Middle-earth beheld it from afar and wondered, and they took it for a sign and called it Gil Estel, the star of high hope. How interesting it is that this star of high hope in Tolkien's mythology is none other than the Venus in our own primary world, which is known as the morning star, the same phrase used in the scripture from Peter I quoted above. An amazing connection. In both the biblical text and Tolkien's story, we see this light in dark places that looks towards a morning star of high hope. We can clearly see the deep connection between music and prophecy, and even their relation to the message in the stars in the biblical text and Tolkien's stories. There's an obvious connection there. But whether Tolkien made the connection between his stories and these biblical texts that we discussed, whether he did that consciously or unconsciously, is a matter for another talk. And many scholars and commentators have dealt with this subject, I think, before to some degree. There are many other examples of prophecy and song in Tolkien's works, as we get back to Tolkien's works, where they are spoken or sung in defiance of the darkness. There's too many examples to explore within the scope of this talk, but my goal here today is to simply point out that these moments of prophecy and song are a shining example of how Tolkien's characters declare in song a bold defiance of the darkness by placing their hope in a prophesied victory that is yet to come, even if that ultimate victory is beyond the time frame of the character's own physical life in Middle-earth. And so we can look at a couple of these examples, more examples of prophecy and song in Middle-earth. And so one of my favorites, and I've recorded a song version of this as well, is the Song of Durin's Awakening. And in this slide here, it says the prophecy of Durin's Awakening, because as we see in these songs, many of these songs are prophecies or they contain prophetic information. We're all probably familiar with this one if we're familiar with Tolkien's works. The world is gray, the mountains old. The forge's fire is ashen cold. No harp is rung, no hammer falls. The darkness dwells in Durin's halls. The shadow lies upon his tomb in Moria and Khazad-dûm. But still the sunken stars appear in dark and windless Miramir. There lies his crown in water deep till Durin wakes again from sleep. What an amazing prophecy there. It's so interesting that we see the mention of stars in this passage. The Song of Durin, back to this moment, it's actually Gimli who stands up amidst the darkness of a ruined Moria and recites this song. And it's the last stanza of the Song of Durin's Awakening that is this prophetic look towards the raising of a great king of the dwarves at some future time. And as I just stated, it's really interesting that the counterpoint to the repeated fallen state, in the stanzas, we hear about the fallen dark state of Moria. The counterpoint begins when things change in the song and get brighter again, is at the mention of stars yet again. So there's another mention of stars along with prophecy. There, but still the sunken stars appear in dark and windless Miramir. So that's really an amazing scene right there as well. Aragorn often calls upon prophecy in song in times of darkness as well. One such great moment is when he recalls the words of Malbeth the seer, written over 1,000 years before the War of the Ring. Over the land there lies a long shadow, westward reaching wings of darkness. The tower trembles to the tomb of kings. Doom approaches. The dead awaken. For the hours come for the oath-breakers. At the stone of Eric they shall stand again. And hear there a horn in the hills ringing. Whose horn? Who shall the horn be? Who shall call them from the gray twilight, the forgotten people, the heir of him whom the oath they swore? From the north he shall come, need shall drive him. He shall pass the door to the paths of the dead. What an awesome example of character in a great time of darkness, calling upon prophecy in song. And in this case, from Malbeth the seer, written so long before the time that this actually happens. This is a shining example to me of prophecy in the Legendarium. Of course, it would be great to review more. We can't review all the instances of prophecy and song within Tolkien's Legendarium in the length of this talk, but there are many. But I think a wonderful way to close this portion of my talk is to look back at the close of Bilbo's journey, a famous passage that we can't ignore when we're talking about prophecy. And it's even there at the beginning of our journeys in Middle-earth, if we started with The Hobbit. At the close of The Hobbit, we see this talk of songs and prophecy. And thankfully, the Tolkien professor himself has perfectly summarized this whole matter for me. In his book, Exploring J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit, Corey Olsen wonderfully writes, Bilbo expresses some surprise when he hears that the old songs have turned out to be true, after a fashion. In Gandalf's reply, the wizard finally addresses openly a truth that has been increasingly clear as we have studied Bilbo's story. You don't really suppose, do you, he asks, that all your adventures and escapes were managed by mere luck, just for your sole benefit? Gandalf confirms that what Bilbo and the narrator have been calling luck the whole time was more than simply chance. Bilbo's adventures have been managed by divine providence for a purpose far greater than the enrichment of one small hobbit. As we have seen, Bilbo was one of the chief instruments of providence in the story, but Bilbo's story has been thoroughly blended with the voices of many other instruments, contributing to a symphony whose score incorporates everything from tea parties of hobbits to the motions of the moon and stars. And I just love that quote by Corey Olsen. I think it perfectly sums up everything we've been talking about so far. So the texts I have discussed above are but a few examples of the integral part prophecy and song play in the defiance of darkness in Middle-earth. By placing such emphasis in the stories on prophecy and song, is Tolkien also singing a song of challenge to the reader as well, asking us, where is the prophecy in your world? A challenging question to us all. Can songs of prophecy only come true in the world of fairy? So I would like to now move to the part of my talk where I explore briefly how this concept of prophecy and song has influenced my own songwriting in the Lonely Mountain Band project, which, if you're not familiar with the Lonely Mountain Band, as Corey said earlier, it's primarily this musical project. I have others, but this musical project, the Lonely Mountain Band, primarily focuses and celebrates the works of Tolkien. And so, as I said earlier, I began to notice in my writing just how many times the subject of prophecy presented itself within the songs I was creating. This all happened fairly recently as well. This is especially poignant in the story of the fall of Gondolin, which I have also written a song about. I present you now with some of my own original lyrics from the upcoming album, specifically the new song entitled The Fall of Gondolin. And it looks like my PDF file got corrupted here, but came wise words from the sea. In Vinyamar leave thee, a helm, mail, and sword, a prophecy for the king. Leave the pride of thy making. From Nevrast, last hope will bring the helm, mail, and sword, borne by a blessed Lord. Signs from the sea, by the king ignored. And so we see in these lyrics of this new song that I'm writing, the retelling of the fall of Gondolin from the perspective of ignored prophecy. So I'm telling the story of how King Turgon was given the warning via prophecy. It was a sure word on how to defy the darkness of his time. He followed part of the prophecy, the early part, involving leaving a helm, a mail, and a sword within the abandoned walls of Vinyamar for Tuor to later find in Don, a favorite scene of mine in the Legendarium. But sadly, he didn't heed the prophetic words, leave the pride of thy making, even though the prophecy was confirmed in front of his eyes by this blessed Lord, Tuor, bringing with him the weapons Turgon himself had left behind because of the prophecy. These signs from the sea were by the king ignored, and Gondolin's fall was great indeed. My retelling of this part of the story of the fall of Gondolin in song then becomes a cautionary tale about ignoring prophecy. In Turgon's case, he simply could not choose the truth of the prophecy over the pride and the things his own hand had made. We've seen this theme quite often in Tolkien's writings, the pride of things that one makes. And so fire awakes in Turgon's walls, in this case, dragon fire. So taking this theme of taking such pride and ownership of one's own creation to the point that you ignore all counsel and wisdom is a theme that we see replayed in all of the stories. This kind of pride defines a darkness that comes from within rather than from the outer dark forces. Okay, so I hope you guys have enjoyed that discussion of prophecy and song. It's finally now my honor to be able to share with you one of my own songs nearing completion. It's actually not quite done yet. It's in the final mixing stages. There might be some more voices, possibly some instruments added, but it's mostly done. So I'm able to at least share the nearing completed version of this new song. This is a song that deals with the elements of the same story about Tuor and Gondolin, but it also looks forward to a victory and help from beyond the Western Seas. The song is entitled The Lords of the West, and it blends elements from three scenes in Tolkien's mythology to harmonize together into one overarching theme of prophecies and song and the eucatastrophe they foretell. But this song doesn't just tell one story. It's kind of a montage of images ranging from Beron's song of challenge and praise of the seven stars, then to Tuor's prophesied encounter in the ruined fortress of Vinyamar, and then it centers on a chorus that conjures images from the warnings given to the men of Numenor. Instrumental in the conjuring of these mental images for the song was, of course, Tolkien's text itself, but also three paintings by the amazing Ted Naismith. And this is something I return to quite often when I'm writing Lonely Mountain Band music. If there's a painting by Ted or some other amazing artists, I'll use those possibly as reference points for lyrical moments in the songs. One small way that I personally defy the darkness is through my own songwriting and recording. So I hope this song inspires you as much as I was inspired during the research and creation of the song. And so this is a new Lonely Mountain Band song heard for the first time anywhere. It's called The Lords of the West, and I hope you are inspired by it. So Corey has the file on the GoToWebinar system, and I believe he will be pulling that up. Hopefully the audio comes across well.
Okay, here we go. Okay, so see, John, I think you can, if you wanted to take your webcam down.
Yes. Should I do that, or you can do that?
Yeah, go ahead. I think you can, yeah, you can do that there.
Okay.
Standing on the shore tonight, 7 stars sing a song of light, a song of challenge and a prophecy. In the darkness wrapped in night, see the signs with a wizard's sight, a song of challenge and a prophecy. When the eagles appear in the sky, the men of the West will cry as lightning flashes across the sky. Of the West will fly. The lords 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 of the West will fly. Resting in the last beam of light, ancient steel burning silver bright, a sword of challenge from a prophecy. In the light of the reddening sun, gazing west, the warrior comes, a song of challenge and a prophecy. When the eagles appear in the sky, the men of the West will cry as lightning flashes across the sky. Of the West will fly. The lords of the West will fly.
Hey, so that was fantastic, John. So could I ask a favor? The favor I want to ask is I would really like to play it again. And I want to do that for two reasons. The primary reason I was going to ask this anyway, because I like always need to hear things at least twice to feel like I'm really absorbing it. I mean, I feel like I'm always left with like impressions and feelings the first time and then clearer thoughts the second time. So I would love just to hear it again because I've never heard it before. Um, but also I know that there were some people who were having some sound issues. Uh, I'm not sure if there's sound routing issues. Some people were kind of glitching, I think. Um, Not sure why it was clearly only some of the people who were not able to hear it. The one thing I will say, the sound certainly should come through on the recording if you aren't able to get it here. I heard it. I was one of the people who heard it fine. But anyway, so I want to also give a second chance for some people who might be glitching there. So
Corey, am I unmuted?
yeah, you are.
Okay, great. So yeah, I heard it fine through my end, and it might be a routing issue on some folks' speakers. But as I posted in the chat, if anybody doesn't get to hear it again now, I'm going to post like a secret link later so that anybody in the Slack chat can click on it and listen to it on their own time later. So I'll post that for
Great,
today.
great. Okay, so I'm just gonna play it one more time, and
Awesome.
then just so we can hear it again, and then we'll talk about it a little bit.
Awesome.
Standing on the shore tonight, 7 stars sing a song of light, a song of challenge and a prophecy. In the darkness wrapped in light, see the signs with a wizard's sight, a song of challenge and a prophecy. When the eagles appear in the sky, the men of the west will cry as lightning flashes across the sky. Of the West will fly. The lords 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 of the West will fly. Resting in the last beam of light, ancient steel burning silver bright, a sort of challenge from a prophecy. In the light of the reddening sun, gazing west, the warrior comes, a song of challenge and a prophecy. When the eagles appear in the sky, the men of the West will cry as lightning flashes across the sky. The lords of the West will fly. 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 The lords of the West will fly.
Okay. Very good. Excellent. Thanks. John, that was really wonderful. You know,
Thank you.
the part that gave me chills every time was the
Chills are good.
transition. Chills are good. Was the transition to the Eagles
Yeah.
there in this and mostly because that was it was so unexpected. The thing that really bore home to me in a really powerful way that I mean, I don't think I've even really spent much time thinking about this, because when you're thinking about the Eagles, like, you know, when the Eagles are coming, whether it be in the Battle of the Five Armies or whether it be at the Black Gate, you know, you're in one spot, right? And that, you know, the sort of the overwhelming feeling of the eucatastrophe, you know, is so strong that that's all I'm thinking about, right? And similarly, when we're doing Numenor, right, and you know, whether it's in the Akala or whether it's in you know, the Notion Club paper material and stuff, the Eagles of the Lords of the West, right, coming from the, you know, the terror, right, you know, the majesty and terror of the warning of the, you know, the threat of imminent destruction, that, you know, this is your last chance to repent, that the Eagles of the West means. So, you know, when, you know, and I'm thinking about especially the way that line, right, the Eagles of the Lords of the West are upon us,
Right.
that keeps floating up, especially in the Notion Club paper stuff. Like, that's the bit that, you know, the sort of fictional inklings keep bursting out with in Adonaic, right?
Right.
But again, that has such a different feeling, you know, this feeling of awe and even of terror, and sorrow and tragedy and everything
Right.
else.
Right. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, because, you know, I was trying to create kind of a dark bed for the lyrics.
Yeah.
Have that sorrow that you're talking about, also have the joy version of the eucatastrophe, but
Yes.
also the dread mixed together, especially, and that's why I put those images up there, especially the one of my favorite paintings from Ted is when the cloud and the lightning image of the
Yes.
eagle is being sent from Manwë to warn the men of the West to, you know, enough is enough already, and the lightning starts coming out, and it actually starts striking as the warnings got worse.
Yes.
The lightning bolts started to actually strike men and kill men.
Yeah.
And so within the song, hopefully I get the point across that, you know, there's hope, but there's also dread and the danger of ignoring of those warnings, but also that moment of catastrophe when the chorus begins, hopefully it's an emotional moment, like you're saying, like when the eagles appear in the sky. So
Yeah, yeah. I just love the sort of the irony of that, right? The way in which that turned, because it was such an unexpected turn, right? We're talking about stars and
right,
prophecy, and when it was like shifting to the chorus, I was expecting like the hope, right? And then
right,
it was like, oh wow! I mean, yes, because of course the eagles of the Lord's are it's both, right?
right. It is.
The eagles are coming. It's always portentous. It's just,
Right.
but it does kind of depend where you're standing.
It's a
Right?
rescue for some and doom for others.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
As
by the
Kate
way,
says,
I should add that the
yeah.
reason I shared this song, and it just worked out perfectly, and it really was the inspiration for my theme as I heard the theme of the conference, trying to figure out what I was going to talk about. This was actually one of it was the first song that was completed
Mhm.
of the group of songs that I'm working on that has lyrics in it. I have
Yeah.
instrumentals that are completed, but can't really talk that much about those in terms of lyrical content. So it just worked out perfectly
Right.
that this was the song that was nearly completed first. I still have a little bit of work to do on it, but it's mostly done.
Yeah, no, that was really great. And again, the way that I love the transition back from the chorus, with that again, that kind of double-edged chorus, right?
Right.
To you had um, the star stuff in the first verses, and then
Yes.
transitioning to the armor and the sword, right? Which is
Right.
still the Tuor context, right? It's still, and again, showing how
Right.
Tuor is himself also in a different sense, right?
Right.
This sort of double-edged prophecy, right?
Yeah.
For Turgon.
Right.
Yeah,
And I think what you're saying about this being a kind of a double-edged thing is I think that's where the phrase "song of challenge" comes in.
yeah, yeah,
It's a challenging concept because, like you said earlier, it depends on where you stand, whether it's a moment of rescue or a moment of dread. So
yeah, yeah. Um, so a couple questions. I wish we had time for more questions, but it always feels like there's not as much time as we would want.
yeah,
Um, uh, Caden was pointing out back near the beginning when you were talking about the act of songs as acts of defiance and things, thinking
right,
back to the music and the way, of course, that the music itself both it is on the one hand marred right by the discord of Melkor, and yet also is itself the vehicle of hope. And when the words that Caden was recalling the words that Iluvatar says, looking back and saying that, how even the discord itself is going to bring about good as yet unimagined. That how
right,
even the discord, even the darkness itself, is it's not only overcome by the light, it becomes itself an instrument of the light
right.
itself, and of the final good. And I thought that was a really excellent point. And I think that you
No,
can sort of see that in some of these other moments that you were pointing
right,
to.
absolutely.
Kat Sass had a quick question. She said, "Do you write music first, lyrics second when you're doing a piece like this?"
Occasionally, the lyrics, usually like one phrase or title, will present itself, and I'll try to write music around that. But most of the time, it's the music that will conjure up the lyrics. It almost always, for me anyway. Some writers are different, but for me, most of the time, it's some music. I'm usually just sitting down playing my acoustic guitar. As you can hear in the beginning of that song, it really is even some like audio that I haven't mixed out yet of me like rustling with the guitar before I start playing. Um, Usually that's how a song starts. It's usually just me sitting down with my acoustic guitar and just playing, and then an idea will grow. And it's really amazing too. An interesting point about the whole creative process is sometimes as you're going through the whole thing, it just grows into something that you didn't have any idea it was going to grow into. And I know that's the same feeling authors and painters have. It's not just music. It grows into this thing that you originally had no vision or idea that was going to happen. And this was one of those times. It grew into something bigger than I had expected it to be at first. So yeah, music comes first most of
Yeah,
the time.
most of the time. Cool. Um, uh, squeeze in one last
Sure.
question before we transition to our next session. Charles Abbott was asking if you would care to comment on that, because you were talking about Luthien and Baron, and their
Right.
songs there. I was wondering if you would care to comment on the song contest between Sauron and Felagund, which of course, happens just before that. And we can see,
Right. That's mentioned as a song of challenge as well, isn't it?
It's
I don't recall.
That phrase
I'd have to read.
used.
I know Song of Challenge is used somewhere else in the mythology. I just can't recall. And I think it has to do with the elves, but I'm not 100% sure. When I was researching the phrase, and when I originally had the idea from this moment of Beren and Luthien, I do recall that there was a moment early in the mythology where it's one of the elves that issues a Song of Challenge. So, yeah, they're not always nice challenges, and it's not always related to, resisting the darkness. Sometimes those songs of challenge, and also too, another point which I didn't bring up in the talk was there are false prophecies as well, which is another topic that could be explored, and also things that arise out of the music that were unexpected and not known until they came to be.
Right.
So
right.
I don't know if that answers the question, but
right. Yeah. No, that's great. Okay. Well, we should. I know our transitions here for the next few sessions are fairly tight, so I'm going to try to keep on schedule and be good, even though I'm tempted to keep talking, of course. John, thank you so much. I know you're going to be able to be around for a bit so people can kind of catch up with you.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll stick around for a little while, and I'll post that secret link we were talking about, so that's anyone whose audio is not working, they can review the song and let me know what you think. So.
Very good.
So that's it. And anyone who's interested in the music can go to minstrelsongs.com and you can listen to all the music there for free. It can be streamed right on the website there, and it's available on all digital outlets and all that business. So
excellent.
It's been a great honor. I thank you so much, and I want to thank all the Signum staff for all the work they do. I know these things are loads of work to put together, so it's
yes,
especially with the changing schedule and everything. It's been amazing. So I'm really grateful and thankful that you guys have been able to do this.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree. No, we need like an applause track that we can run. It feels weird to be like, okay, and this is the moment. I mean, we were saying this morning too. This is the moment when everyone is applauding.
Right. Well, it was a solemn song, so
yes, it was. All right. Excellent. Thank you so much. So I think for the next session, we're sticking here in this channel and in this session. So
fantastic.
All right, so we're gonna so we'll just let you, John, you can take off your webcam and mic.
Fair travels, everyone.
Thank you,
so
John.
much. Take care, everyone. See you later.